What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another episode of the Dossier, the Marvel Crisis Protocol show where we talk all things Crisis Protocol characters, from the design of their model to their character card and what they bring to the table. Remember, these are not meant to be comprehensive discussions. There are some really good in-depth ones for strategy and tactics that you can find online. Highly recommend you go and check those out. And of course, these shows can't help, and without the wonderful support of all my patrons over at patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. Basically, their generous donations keep everything coming, allow us to keep up with content, and generally speaking, just try to be a little bit more prolific with some of the content that we put out there. So if you want to support the channel, definitely go hit up patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. Just a couple bucks a month, and it keeps everything happening. It allows us to keep current with everything. So today we are going to talk about Rocket Raccoon, the two-threat blaster from Guardians of the Galaxy. Frankly, a character that kind of makes Guardians function really well because of his low threat cost, basically letting Guardians just kind of go extremely tall with a lot of teams. So let's talk his model. First thing I really like about this model, I like that it integrated aspects of Groot to it as well. Because a lot of the time, you're bringing Rocket, you're bringing Groot. They are quite often referred to as like a 5-threat pair of characters. Simply because they got that really nice ability that, if Rocket's within 2 of Groot, Groot can bodyguard for Rocket. So I like that little design choice in there. I like that Rocket's on it as well. It just gives a little bit more height to an otherwise small model. I love that the gun is the size of Rocket as well. It's a really nice touch. Overall, the details really solid. I would have liked a little bit more depth in the texture of the fur, but again, this was first 6 months, I believe. This came in around like the summer of the first year MCP was even out. So AMG was still kind of flexing a little bit, and I think the Guardians at that time were kind of had some of the more interesting models coming out. But all in all, I like Rocket. I think it really captures what we envision of Rocket these days. Whether or not it captures the comic spirit, I can't really speak to that, but it definitely captures the movie version of Rocket that we're all very familiar with. So yeah, the model itself, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. It being smaller meant that there were some challenges with assembly on it, but nothing too strenuous. Just take your time with it, and you will be able to get Rocket put together in a good time. So what does his card bring here? Well, he's 2/2/3 for his defenses, 3 stamina, 2 size 2, 2 threat. Sorry, size 1, 2 threat, and a medium mover. Outside of Ant-Man and Wasp, who transform into a size 1, he is the only size 1 character in the game. And one thing I really want to touch on for this one is that with the way line of sight rules work in this game, it can make him very difficult to target because line of sight only cares about the attack character, so the target. It does not care about the attacker. So you can hide Rocket behind a piece of size 2 terrain where he can't be seen, but he will be able to see everything that is size 2 and larger and shoot at them from relative safety. It's one of the things that makes Rocket such a dangerous character to deal with in this. As for his attacks, he's got his energy plasma rifle. It's a range 5 dice attack. It is your standard builder. Nothing else really going on there. But it being a range 5 dice attack is just fantastic. Again, this goes back to Rocket just being an absolutely great turret. Between being able to hide behind small terrain and still shoot things, have Groot as a bodyguard, he's very difficult to take down as a result. We got the Hadron Enforcer, which is an energy attack, range 5, 7 dice for 4 power, with a wild vortex. Before damage is dealt, other enemy characters within 2 of the target characters suffer 1 damage and are pushed towards the target character short. Anytime you can do unanswered damage is always a really nice thing. From range 5, no less, it really, again, it goes back to Rocket being a dangerous character to try and deal with. You really have to close that gap on him to try and take him down. Because Hadron Enforcer, not only will 7 dice usually get a lot of work done for you, especially once you're factoring in the wing it tokens that Guardians get, but being able to just do some general splash damage as well, especially considering a wild on 7 dice, is not outside the realm of possibility. I think it's like a 63 or so % chance to get it. So, you have very good odds of getting that wild in there. So it's a solid attack. We got Booby Traps, which is reactive for 3 power. When an enemy character ends a movement within 3 of this character, so movement in this case is, an advance, a push, a place, and I think a throw. Basically, it's any time a character is moved within 3 of this character. They can use a superpower, roll 4 dice, and they will suffer 1 damage for each wild and crit rolled. It is another great way of protecting Rocket, and it can be a great way of just taking on a last point of damage or two on a character as they try to close that gap. Personal bodyguard for 0. This is what we were talking about. It's basically Groot can bodyguard for Rocket if he's within 2 of Rocket. It's something that keeps him alive and makes it very difficult because Groot has a lot of health, a lot of defenses to chew through. We got Nimble, which is an 8. He does not suffer damage from collision, so you can't deal with him simply by having stuff thrown at him or throwing him into things. This is incredibly powerful because throwing is one of those ways that it is set damage that they have to mitigate as opposed to rolling to see how much damage is done. So yeah, this is a great superpower for him to have. And then we got small stature. So he always benefits from cover, even if he's out in the open. So those low defenses means that unless he's rolling a skull, he's usually getting at least 1 success on his defenses. And again, that makes him a lot harder to take down than his defensive profile would indicate. So yeah, all in all, this is a kit of a character that is very, very tricky to take down. If you can close the gap and maybe get Groot out of that range 2, sort of bubble of Rocket, he does fold rather easily, as long as your dice kind of cooperate with you. But getting there is really problematic, and a lot of time the effort might not necessarily be worth it. So you really have to think about whether or not Rocket needs to go down, and if you want to deal with those 5 dice attacks coming in at you constantly throughout the course of the game. And again, it's something that really aids the Guardians of the Galaxy. They can throw a lot of these targets at you. They're throwing lots of 4, 5, 6 dice attacks all over the place, and they just kind of get you that way. And Rocket is a great piece to be a part of that particular process. Frankly, I think Rocket's favorite home is the Guardians. I think as a 2 threat, he could fit into other sort of gunline style affiliations like Shadowland Daredevils or possibly even Shield or something like that, where you want to be taking advantage of a lot of your ranged attacks, maybe even X-Force or something like that. But again, with every 2 threat, I mean, he can fit almost everywhere. But once you start giving him the winging it tokens, you start giving him some of the other things that come with Guardians of the Galaxy. For instance, things like Deadly Duo with him and Groot, where he gets 3 just extra attacks in a round, or the possibility of Levelful Misfits going off and doing something great, or Crew of the Milano getting rid of some conditions. He really loves being in Guardians. So I think that's personally where he probably belongs. But you guys can sound off below. Let me know if you agree, disagree, or anything like that. And we will see you next time. Happy wargaming.